Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Stranger Things Season 4 and more specifically Volume 2 of Stranger Things Season 4. So let's get into it. Before I go further into this review, I'm going to let you know right now that this is a spoiler-filled review. I'll be going blow by blow on certain elements as well as discussing how the season ends in detail. So if you haven't seen those 2 episodes yet, I highly recommend you do that right now before progressing with this video.
Spoiler alert.
I also have a review of Volume 1 of Season 4 of Stranger Things. Check that video out if you haven't seen that one. However, in terms of a quick recap, I really enjoyed the first volume. I had some problems with some of the humor and small points like that. However, I really enjoyed it, especially in the build up to the end of that first volume.
It's awesome!
I'm so glad to say that Volume 2 managed to end Season 4 on a really strong note. It continues on from the excellent Episode 7 with 2 film-length episodes that were incredibly well paced. I binge-watched both episodes back to back, which totals at around 4 hours long, and it honestly flew by. I never felt the length of these episodes because there was so much ground to cover. Stranger Things is starting to feel like one of those epic shows that just don't come around very often. Deciding on having 5 episodes instead of milking the momentum of the show for all it's worth is an excellent decision because every episode this season felt like it was handled with so much care. This also managed to fix some of the issues I had with the first part of the season. The biggest one being how they handled Jonathan. I was not a fan of the stoner angle that they were going with him, and in this part, he comes back around as a character and manages to have a really nice arc in terms of reconnecting with Will. I love the scene where they talk in the pizza restaurant, and he shows that he will always be there for Will. I think both Noah Schnapp and Charlie Heaton nail their performances here.
Great job!
The multiple storylines feels a little less jarring now. Not that it bothered me all that much in the first 7 episodes, but I feel in these 2 episodes, they balanced everyone out really well. The best part of this show remains the elements that feature Eleven and Wekner. In episode 8, we are thrown straight in from where the last episode left off. We see Eleven quickly get her powers back and she feels stronger than what she has been in the previous seasons. The Doctor, or Papa, continues to manipulate Eleven to the point where I think all of us were begging Eleven to kill him, similar to how Wagner kills his victims. And we hit a moment where it looks like that could actually happen, but she was injected with something and just can't quite manage to pull that off in time. She manages to get out of the lab and Papa does end up dying after being shot from the sniper from that military group that just didn't play the biggest part in this season, which I'm honestly quite glad about because military stuff in anything is just really boring to me.
I'm so bored.
The scene where Eleven destroys the helicopter was an amazing sequence and once again showcases how strong she has become. The way she could make it move with very little effort was just so badass. Mike, Will, Jonathan, and Argyle finally catch up to Eleven, which was an awesome scene to finally see them catch up. Going back to Papa's death, I think in my opinion, I probably would have preferred if Eleven was the one to kill Papa, but he still does die, and it works out to be a nice little scene anyway. One of my favorite parts in the first volume of this season was the Russia storyline with Hopper, and where they left off was a really nice moment where he finally reunites with Joyce. All of the Russia stuff in this episode is solid. It shows that the Russians are experimenting on demogorgons and demodogs, as well as holding a cloud of particles that seems very mysterious and looks like that will be a major point to Season 5. Unfortunately, in Episode 9, Russia just really becomes a side mission to the really interesting stuff. The whole crew escape the prison and then decide to go back because they can't go back to America in time to save everyone in Hawkins. They decide that they can help defeat the Demogorgons in Russia, which is their way of helping everyone. With how high stakes everything has become this season, this group of characters trying to fend off a pack of these creatures feels very small stakes and just removes a lot of urgency to their mission. It also seems very unclear if Enzo ends up being a bad person or not, who betrays Hopper later, because in his conversation with Yuri, he seems really focused on saving Russia, which could cause a conflict later if Hopper needs his help or something. I do love how the Russia arc ends despite the third act feeling a little inconsequential and unimportant. Hopper grabs a sword and beheads the main white Demogorgon in this epic slow motion shot that looked amazing and ended everything with Hopper's time in the prison really well.
It's so badass.
Probably one of the best storylines in these two episodes was the Steve, Max, and Dustin crew and what they try to do to stop Wekner. They all decide to go back into the Upside Down, where Dustin and Eddie Munson go to Eddie's house in the Upside Down to try to attract those swarm of bats surrounding Wekner's house. Steve, Nancy, and Robin are the ones going to his house and are going to try and kill him with the weapons they bought at that weapons show. Max, Lucas, and Erica go to Wekner's house in the normal world, where Max will stop listening to Kate Bush and let Wekner take her over to act as a distraction and make him vulnerable in the Upside Down. As you can imagine, their plan doesn't fully come into fruition and all hell breaks loose.
Not everything went exactly according to plan.
Going back to Eddie and Dustin, I love the way that they attract the bats. Eddie grabs his guitar and plays an awesome solo that just looks so badass and captures that 80s metal vibe so well. It attracts all the bats and they attempt to fend them off by hiding and blocking everything in the house. Unfortunately, they do make it into the house. Dustin manages to escape and enter the normal world, but for Eddie, he tries to buy Dustin more time and runs off to distract the bats even more. He tries to fight them and the bats overwhelm him and he dies in very emotional fashion.
Why am I so sad?
Sean Levy and the Duffer Brothers did such an amazing job making him feel like a very likable character. So to make him die and complete his arc where he feels like a hero just feels so sad. Gaten Matarazzo nails his performance in these two episodes, so when he is breaking down, it feels very real and emotional and elevates that scene to new heights. Another really well handled sequence was what they did with Lucas and Max. Max is trying to draw Wekner out by yelling out to him while turning her music off, and he eventually buys the bait when she talks about how she always wanted Billy to die, and that's what was tormenting her, not the fact that he did die. I love the way he plays with her mind again by pretending to be Lucas being shocked by this revelation and saying that she should have been the one to die.
Don't you think you're being a little harsh?
I feel like Wekner was a lot more terrifying in these two episodes because he doesn't come out too much. He is mainly building suspense and you constantly feel his presence. This then starts a whole new sequence where Max is trying to use her good memories to hold Wekner off. It kind of works and I like how it was handled where he is slowly tainting all of her good memories. Once again, you feel his presence and we get to the point where she can really hold him off no longer. 11, who has been trying to find Max, enters into her memories and comes to the rescue. And we then get this pretty badass sequence with 11 and Wekner. You can tell he really hates 11 now, but this feels so evenly matched because they have both grown so powerful.
Strangely powerful.
Stranger Things has always done a great job of having real stakes. You don't know what's going to happen to these characters, which makes this so fun to binge watch. It looks like 11 has Wekner beat, but he comes back and sends 11 to Wekner's arena and tells her that he's going to make her watch him kill Max. How come every time Wekner goes into a full monologue, I am just so captivated by what he says? This character is easily the best villain in all of Stranger Things because you slowly realize just how evil he is. 11 tries to save Max by appealing to Wekner's better nature and telling him that he was a good person, but Papa twisted him into what he is now, kind of like what he did to 11. I love how Wagner just doesn't accept that. He knows he has always been like this, and it's amazing when he says to 11 that she's the one who made him. It's just such a perfectly executed scene, and Millie Bobby Brown absolutely nails her performance here as she's crying and feels completely stuck. Wagner continues to explain what happened to him when he entered the Upside Down for the first time. We get the revelation that those particles that are in Russia were in the Upside Down and that Wagner molded that into becoming the Mind Flayer. I was absolutely shocked after checking how long was left in this episode. I'm like, surely there's going to be 10 minutes left because everything happening right now is just so epic. But no, there was a whole 45 minutes left, and I was just so happy because these last few episodes have been near perfect in their execution.
This is really amazing.
Mike finally confesses to Eleven while she is blindfolded on the table in that pizzeria that he loves her and to keep fighting because she is his superhero. This spurs Eleven on in the Upside Down. She breaks out of her restraints and blasts Wekner. Steve and Robin throw Molotovs at Wagner while Nancy blasts him with the shotgun, and it seems like he has died. However, Eleven was a little too late here because he performed a lot of his ritual with Max and she has broken most of her bones and it looks like she has died. This is easily one of the most emotional moments in the whole show. Max wakes up for a second where she can't see and her bones are broken. She pleads with Lucas that she just doesn't want to die, and it all feels so heart-wrenching. The performances from Sadie Sink and Caleb McLaughlin are also excellent here. It seems like she eventually dies in his arms. Because Max is dead, Wagner's plan has come into fruition and the Upside Down is now bleeding into the real world as Hawkins gets hit with an earthquake that completely opens up the town. I absolutely love sequences where the villain wins and the characters are now put in an extremely tough situation, and it was flawlessly executed here. Now, my only kind of real flaw with this episode is what they do with Max's death. It can go two ways in my opinion. Now, the first thing is that she comes back to being alive, which is looking like how it's going to go because Eleven suddenly has some sort of healing powers out of nowhere and manages to move her from dying and put her into a critical condition. I felt like this was all a little bit of a cop-out because she died in such an emotional way that bringing her back just rips out all that emotion in the scene. I felt like they should have followed through with her dying or just saved her completely, not do this whole fake out thing.
Tricked you.
There is still the possibility that she is dead because Eleven tries to reach out to Max in the in-between and no one is there. I love the intrigue here because Wagner didn't die either. He was launched out of the window from the top floor of his house, but as Nancy, Steve, and Robin get to him, he is gone. There is a real possibility here that he is potentially possessing Max. The epilogue sees Dustin tell Eddie's uncle that he died in another emotional sequence that probably had everyone in tears like the other two emotional sequences before this. So much of this was just written extremely well and the performances once again are incredible.
I'm not going to cry.
We finally see the massive ensemble of characters finally reunite, with the best one being Hopper and Eleven being back together. I've always loved their father-daughter dynamic, and I hope season 5 goes further down that route. The ending brought back some incredible things as well. I always loved Will's connection to the Upside Down, and with that being gone lately, he feels like a weaker character because of it. This is back as he explains to Mike that he feels Wekner is still out there, and he is extremely angry because he lost this season. I'm so glad that they didn't defeat him this season because he is such a great villain. I just don't think they could top this, especially seeing his connection with Eleven is bigger than anything else this show has come up with in the past. They see that part of Hawkins is dying and they all get the chills on the back of their necks, similar to what happened to Will before he got possessed in season 2. Season 5 is going to be very interesting because that is confirmed to be the final season of Stranger Things, and I feel it. I don't know previously how they could have continued on after the events of this season, but they managed to find a way and it felt earned and unfolds this story properly. Before I give my final verdict, I just also want to mention how technically impressive this season is. I mean, some of these episodes were film length and it had the quality that a lot of great films do. If the last episode was compared to other films, it would stand its ground as an excellent film because it is so well shot and feels so epic while telling this unique story. I mean, sure, it has references from other stories, but in the end, it uses its influence in a way that feels so unique and not derivative of something else. Right after I finished watching these 2 episodes, I was looking at bumping up my original score of a 4 that I gave to the first 7 episodes to a 4.5 for the whole season. But while there was a thing here or there that just didn't fully click with me, There was nothing I downright hated. Even Max's death sets up something quite intriguing. To be honest, I love this show so much and I commend everyone who is behind this. The season had such a large scope and was so well crafted that I have to bump season 4 of Stranger Things to a 5 out of 5. I have not seen a better season of television in years. Honestly, I'm starting to think this is moving into the realm of Breaking Bad quality. Making this 5 seasons like Breaking Bad was is just perfect. I think because this story is just so well planned out and is building to a conclusion that has been planned for years. This is unfolded like all good stories do, and I love how unpredictable this all feels. I could sit here and say what I think is going to happen to season 5, but honestly, I just don't know. But I do think this is going in the right direction to end this fantastic show on a positive note. Also, splitting the season up into 2 parts was an excellent way of combating the issue I mentioned in my review for the first part of Stranger Things season 4, where you binge watch it and then you just kind of forget. I think this will not happen at all with this season because everything was just so well crafted, and spacing it all out has given me a lot of time to reflect on the show, and when episode 8 started, I did not need that recap at all because this season has just been so memorable. Thank you so much for watching this video. Tell me your thoughts on Stranger Things season 4 down below. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.